What is going on, guys? This is Dylan here. Today, we'll be going over a ticker symbol analysis on the ticker symbol MSTR strategy. We have seen a pullback in strategy, guys, since breaking out of this massive weekly bull flag continuation. We're starting to see price action flip to the upside, right? Traders and investors in MSTR are wondering right now, is this a spot where stock curls back up, eventually reclaims these big levels and continues the trend? Or is this another blip in the road where we might head a little bit lower? With that being said, guys, we'll remain 0% biased. In today's video, we're going to flip to a couple different time frames using technical analysis techniques to get an actual price target and levels to watch moving forward. Let's get straight into the video, guys. So on the weekly time frame, guys, we do see stock pulling back to a weekly confluent zone and starting to get that bounce. As when we broke out of this massive bull flag breakout, you've seen stock price rally all the way before leaving the wick right at this level. Before we took off in the last candle, we set a body right there, followed by another wick and three bodies simultaneously. So we're seeing confluence in this area, and that's good to see, guys, as this pullback very much is warranted, right? Looking at the weekly structure, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 green weeks in a row. So seeing a red candle right at these highs where previously we did have that very patient consolidation after this very intense run-up, it makes sense that stock price could have a red to green reversal. And there's really only see 1, 2, 3 weeks of red candle pullback. Not really too alarming. Arguably could have had a lower retracement considering, we ran all the way up into this level. So definitely seeing a lot of bullish signs on the weekly, guys. With that being said, from a very big structural perspective, looking deep into the future, guys, we are in a weekly bull flag continuation breakout. Being this bull flag stemming in 2024, seeing that massive breakout over the highs, getting that short squeeze-like effect, setting another flag pull-like structure before going into another flag and breaking out. This flag is more sloping instead of horizontal, but you still get the image, guys. The same exact thing, same exact price target. So if you get a 50% retracement of that bull flag like structure and move it to the bottom all the way to the top, we do feel that $500 psychological level is very realistic. Looking deep out, right, as this is a big structure, guys. This bull flag continuation is played out all the way really to the beginning of 2024. So, to see stock price be a little bit more patient in this run up instead of just short squeezing all the way up, right? It is a little less exciting, but as far as a more sustainable slow and steady wins the race approach, it is very real with stocks. And picking up bids on this area does look nice, right? We do see a wick to the top, so not quite, complete buyer control in this area. But this is a support area where we expect stock to start to show a little bit of support. And that's what we're seeing as of now, guys. So, over the next 10 weeks, 5 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks, got to be bullish, guys. We're moving up in this bullish structure. And if we take an arrow all the way to the bottom of this movement to the top, very simple, guys. But you see stock price is clearly ascending higher, setting those higher lows, being very strong. So on the weekly perspective, guys, definitely got to remain bullish. On the daily time frame, guys, we mentioned in the last video, we need to see that strong close over 374 to get that next movement to 389. And that's what we've seen, guys. We've seen that nice close over 374 around this accumulation support, pushing up out of the zone after hanging there for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days, really just accumulating. We've seen the close over, guys, and immediately push to that level and rejected. We'll get right to the current candles, guys, but before we get to that, it's very important that we talk about the elephant in the room, really, guys. It's that $400 level. If you've been following the channel over the last few weeks, you might be a little bit annoyed at me saying that, guys, but it's important. Since we broke out of this big consolidation 320 zone, there hasn't been a more important level since that big 320, where we've seen the upside, right? We pressed all the way up with zero issues before waking out at that $400 level once, twice, eventually gapping up over it, having a hard time over 422.25, for effectively bouncing on $400 for around 7 days, for eventually setting 2 wicks over that resistance level, and then we got below. And you've seen the reaction, guys. Right when we opened below $400 clean, immediate sweep. And it is nice to see buyers hold up in this area, but we still need to get over that $400 psychological hard number and big resistance marker to really feel super confident in the short-term momentum in MicroStrategy. So we're seeing that rounding bottom, right? Clear accumulation exiting this blue box support we've been following. So with that being said, guys, we have seen buyers step up and do their job. It is 100% a stretch to say that stock is bearish, considering that immediately when we had this massive wide bar pressing down to the zone, we immediately mentioned, guys, we're at the support level, right? And we've seen buyers step up for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days doing their job, but we haven't got that immediately squeezed up to 400. That's what you'd want to see as far as a buyer perspective. And, until we're reclaiming that level, guys, it is hard to say we're bullish. Being a technical analyst, the last thing we are is bias. The stock market does not care about your feelings, emotions, none of that. It does look nice that buyers are curling up, but I do believe looking at the daily structure in the current candles, we lean more neutral than bullish or bearish, right? We're clearly ascending up, right? If you had to pick a side, we would lean bullish. Stock prices continue to move nicely, but being in a retraction phase, curling up with that obvious gap from a very short-term perspective, we want to see $400 being held. Once that happens and we jump back in this phase, guys, we're looking very good from a short-term perspective, as these sellers who hop in these areas are very much trapped, guys. And where will their stop loss be? You guessed, guys, $400. So keep an eye on that hard level. That really will be the nice line in the sand. And then further support for the bulls, obviously the support level where stock has continued to consolidate right over the last week, being the floor, that 368, and the top being 374. This rough area, stock price has continued to pick up liquidity, buyers in the market. We held there for 1, 2, 3, 4 days, pressing up for rejecting 400, coming all the way back down and bounce, right? So we have found buyers from this area, but, being completely unbiased, we do have to break over $400. So with that being said, guys, let's go move over to the hourly time frame. On the hourly time frame, guys, we mentioned in last video, we've seen that knife down from 374 all the way to these lows where stock price bounced. Buyers stepped up for coming right back down to the 374 neckline, pulling back, giving that picture perfect double bottom like formation. You see the W, picture perfect, guys. Doesn't get more perfect than that. We mentioned around here that we wanted to see the strong close over 374 to push to the next resistance zone, being 389. And that's exactly what we've seen, guys. With that at this level for a couple hours, almost getting the close over. For right when we get that strong close over, we immediately squeeze right to that zone before accumulating as the market moves in phases, right? Accumulation, move, accumulation, move. You've seen the accumulation on the micro, analysis, and then we squeezed down. So obviously, being that there is that big meaty $400 resistance, which we continue to mention, we didn't quite get there. We consolidated on this level we mentioned was the next zone, and we started to pull back. So this doesn't mean that we're bearish on the hourly time frame. In theory, anything above this demand zone, being that we consolidated here for around a week and had this descending channel break, we're still remaining bullish as far as the hourly perspective, but we're starting to see this descending trend line form. So if you follow MicroStrategy on a very short-term perspective, keep an eye on this, guys. We'll be keeping a close eye on this as the weeks transpire. Seeing 10 touch points, in the last, 16 hours or so price action. Definitely got to think with this confluence zone up here. Maybe this could be a trend line if stock price does start to descent, which could be, a pretty good indication we got to follow. But with that being said, guys, more or less neutral in the hourly. Like we're really just in this gray area zone until we hold up over this. Considering that stock isn't a retracement, we're trying to find the bounce. Right, we're starting to see that. So you definitely can't say we're bearish, but I do feel it's a stretch to say we're bullish. As we've seen that, negative price action confluence and drop at that 389 zone, where in theory, it's definitely not even close to as heavy of a resistance as $400 has been. So very much being unbiased on the hourly chart, guys. That's how we got to be, is the market doesn't care about our emotions. With that being said, really just remain neutral. In that MicroStrategy is very, neutral in the short-term perspective. We got to keep a closer eye on Bitcoin. Keeping it super simple, guys, because we could dive very deep into this. We're seeing a massive tight squeeze in Bitcoin. And this isn't happening in any spot, just any normal spot. We're sitting in the most important resistance level Bitcoin has ever been in. Right? These $105,000 levels, this rough zone, guys, is where Bitcoin grinded all the way from 50K, pushing up very, very strong before waking out, coming back down and having this very tight consolidation phase before stock price did, ultimately end up retracting for a couple months, pulling as low as around that 70K zone. So to pull up all the way back in this very, very important zone. And once again, guys, have this consolidation. It's a little bit more tight and, a pennant structure, not a horizontal, but keeping it very, very simple, guys, as we already, are deep into the analysis. If we break over that $107,000 level, this should be the spot where stock price continues to see these stair step like effects. And this is how stocks move, guys. They move up, they move down, they move up, they move down. And clearly that's what Bitcoin's been doing. When setting this stair step like effect and being in this very important spot with these very, very obvious constraints, you got to think that if 107K breaks, we should easily be able to move up higher, right? Break through new all-time highs, which we did previously, and continue the rise. But sitting in this major resistance zone, guys, if we lose that $103,300 level, we should easily be able to move down to at least that $100,000 psychological level, perhaps pulling back to this major support level. We will jump into that if this does happen, break to the downside, as there's a little bit more questionability to where we should bounce, as we are a little bit overextended in the short term, being up 50%. But the trend is your friend, guys. Stock is clearly moving in a very, very bullish trajectory. So if I had to pick a side, despite seeing a little bit of bearish divergence dropping from these $107,000 lows, I would lean to the upside as a trend is your friend, guys. We're in the weekly bull flag continuation. But once again, guys, let's let the data confirm for us. If we break over the upside, we should see another easy, couple weeks of bullish movement as we did here. We learned on the channel. We broke over, this bull flag structure. We had this consolidation. We've seen that impulsive move up. Stock price based out of these highs. We squeezed over it. We've seen the impulsive move up. So once again, guys, stock price is squeezing up, getting really, really tight. We only have a couple more days tops building this apex of this pattern before potentially we have that impulsive move up, or we finally do see the pullback and Bitcoin come back to life, come back down a little bit, as it's just been going ridiculous, guys. So with that being said, guys, keep an eye on this ascending support line and that $103,300 level and that $107,000 level being the top. Guys, we are seeing the beginning of a rounding bottom, right? Nice accumulation from the buyers, picking stock right back up, but we still have that major gap and resistance level at that $400 level. That being said, we remain unbiased. As much as I want to come on here, guys, and say that stock is looking very, very bullish, we still have some major data points to confirm before we can jump into that short-term bias. That being said, if you enjoyed the video, guys, like, subscribe, all that. Keep an eye on these major levels. Have a good day. Take care, and peace.